The only thing that's needed is constant internet connection. If that fails even for a second, वो stop हो जाती है.
उसकी वजह से हुआ होगा। Sorry. कल तक जाते ही ऐसा होगा।
But that's public now.
Right.
Should be fine. Just make sure that
कोई तो you also make sure that the internet connection is intact.
the phone is right there.
Okay.
तभी मैं
Maybe call वाला आया होगा।
इशू नहीं होगा उससे. कोई इशू नहीं होगा उससे. कॉल
Live stream पे चलो।
safe to say the number is wrong.
It's okay. The number being zero is not an issue. But if you're not thinking about that number, that is an issue.
हमने जैसा problem.
हम कुछ भी इनपुट करते हैं, आउटपुट क्या आ रहा है उससे निकल क्या रहा है वो थोड़ी ना पता है। अगर बिजली तो भाई बिजली तो बहुत रहेंगे दुनिया में, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है, बट किस चीज़ के लिए बिजली हो रहा है? इट्स फाइन, आज जीरो है, कल होगा, 2-5 होगा, अगली बार 10 होगा, तो होगा।
हेलो.
लाइव स्ट्रीम में तुम्हारे कपड़े नहीं
लाइव स्ट्रीम. हाँ. आपका
और ये क्या बोलते हैं?
वॉइस यस ऑन है.
क्या?
वॉइस ऑन।
Do we have all the teams back here for the second semi-finals? Guys, I want to at least close today on time, so please do cooperate. Tell me if the teams are back in here and I'll just begin right away. 3 of you guys are here? Yeah. Which team are you? I'm sorry, in here? DDOC. What about Andre? Are you here? You guys are also here. Please get seated.
We are off, right? Proceed. We are off. क्या यार ये क्या मफलर देखो it's
Hi everyone, so we've concluded the first semi-finals round. We'll now move to the second semi-finals. The second semi-final round is between DDUC SRCC versus Anvaya Union. I'll now invite the panel for the debate. The first panelist for the debate is Shashwat. Shashwat has extensive experience in debating. He was an Open Octo finalist at the United Asian Debating Championship 2023. He was also the Open champion at the Nalsar University of Law Championship 2024 and also the Open champion at the Christ University Parliamentary Debate 2024. Welcoming you, Shashwat, to the semi-finals debate. The next panelist we have is Pavat. Pavat has over 17 years of experience and currently serves as a Group General Counsel at InShots. His areas of expertise include data privacy, cybersecurity, and technology law. Pavat was previously partnered at the Shardul Amarchand Mangaldas and led a dispute resolution practice there. Welcoming Pavat to the semi-finals as well. The third panelist is going to remain consistent. We have Ankit in the panel. Again, for the benefit of the crowd, Ankit is co-founder at GDI Partners. He has decade-long experience in the social impact sector. He was also part of the inaugural cohort for the Chief Minister's Good Governance Associate Program. Welcoming you, Ankit, to the panel. Can I also have the other team up on the stage? Yeah, perfect. Can you just show me the team allocation slide again? Yeah. So GOV is going to be taken up by DDUC SRCC and opposition is going to be taken up by NVIU. Thank you. Okay. We can now move to the themes. The theme for the second semi-final round: advancement into the digital age or sleepwalking into a digital danger. I'll have the motions now. The first motion: political parties should be prohibited from using personal data to micro-target voters during electoral campaigns. Second motion: government should subsidize AI tools that offer companionship functions, such as acting as confidence or daily conversational partners for their citizens. The third motion: technology companies should be mandated to release any software that achieve a highly dominant market position. Example: Google Chrome, Photoshop, Zoom, etc. as open source. Do we have an info slide for any of the motions? We do. The motion is technology companies should be mandated to release any software that achieves a highly dominant market position as open source. The theme context I have is open source refers to a software whose source code is publicly available for anyone to view, modify, and share under an open license.
How do you define a highly dominant market? What is defined as a highly dominant market position?
Do we have one here or Kaushiki? Okay, this is up to the debate. Any other clarifications, guys? If no, we'll start the time for the motion mapping. I think we can do. Yeah, start the motion.
What is the high dominant market? Is it 50% of market share or is it
Just tell me what you're doing. You're giving motion one? Alright. So, no. The government side has vetoed the third motion and opposition vetoes the first motion, and hence that means the debate is on the second motion on government subsidizing AI rules.
You want to say go out or go back? पीछे कर अरे बाहर
That's the best way to judge the bias. Small but very, very cute campus. It's in the vibe. I have 3 years of my college, like each year I went there. Did they have a league team from there? Because they call it some they have some what's the name? That I'm not very sure. We're an engineering college, so we didn't really have a lot of opportunity lovers. Very obvious reason. I got to look. But it's very self-sustaining. It has very good food. It's very nice. But it's very much like my own beauty was secluded in Bhavana, away from all our colleges, amongst all the worst sort of crimes that I know. But good place to locate the Delhi engineering college. On the point.
Genetic chart at
You got the weight.
ठीक है बोल देना
अभी घर जाओगे? हाँ घर जाके आ जाओगे?
All right. Without any further ado, Prime Minister, 𝒂𝒊𝒂𝒔.
Whenever you say things, whenever you say.
Hello. Starting 10 seconds. 𝒂𝒊𝒂𝒔. 3, 2, 1. If a message or a pop-up on my smartphone screen makes me feel better and makes me understand a query or a question that I want to answer, I think that is good for me. And that makes me believe that, okay, I have someone to look up to. There are 4 parts to my speech. First, I will show you what this AI looks like. Second, I'll put why are people lonely and why there's a need metric for this solution. Third, why are subsidies important? And fourth, how we go ahead and solve this problem. The first thing that I want you to know that in the current demography, there is high amount of internet penetration and smartphone penetration existing, meaning the policy of subsidizing these modules will go ahead and penetrate a large amount of people in general across demographics, old age, young age, all are included. The second thing is these are integrated and accessible, probably like a WhatsApp chatbot or something that's a Gemini assistant that comes in, meaning they're very easy to use and there is no barrier to entry of using this module. Meaning the policy is something that's going to reach a lot number of people in the first place. The third thing is the conversation is something that prefers how the model wants you to interact with that. Meaning the conversation is also easier happening. Meaning at that point, you will be very easy to go ahead and comfortable with the conversing with the AI in the first place. The second thing that I want you to know is why are people looking at what is the problem that we are trying to solve. We think due to the rise of hustle culture and nuclear families, at all points there's a gap existing in human relations in the first place. Meaning there are certain questions or certain answers that we are not able to get from our social circles, and that means that all kinds of conversations are limited. Which means that at all points in time, we think that there is a need for us to go ahead and solve this problem. Because we think that social distancing has worked out in such a way that there are various problems working for people across various demographics. For old people, they're not able to converse with their children, they're not able to converse with their family members. For young people, they're facing this huge generational gap due to the shift during the recent decades in the first place. Meaning every demography has unique problems and that needs to be solved in the first place. Why is that important and why that needs to be solved? For better social cohesion and to have conversations happening in the first place. Why do we think, and what does subsidy looks like on our side? We think, one, you give the subsidies to scale up these models in the first place. Meaning, they can argue, okay, for sure, LLMs are widely accessible. But I think that the conversational models in the first place are very, very expensive to use. Meaning, you can have 2 or 3 chats with ChatGPT Pro or like ChatGPT, but then they will try to upsell you and take money from you when you have to go ahead and have these conversations existing. Meaning, these are expensive in reality. Which means when you want to scale up this model and give it to the other people, at that point in time, there has to be some amount of subsidy that has to be given. Secondly, this also sends a signaling effect. Meaning, if a government is trusting and subsidizing these agents, which means it sends a better signaling that, okay, the government trusts this module, that means it's easier for me to use. That gives us a better amount of opt-in on our side. The third thing is, okay, now companies comply better because now they see you as a stable market because the government is like supportive of you. At that point in time, they're better able to comply with your policies in the first place. They might surely come up and say, okay, but they can use it for unfair means too. But we don't think that is true because the sheer amount of scale is so lucrative that you don't want to do something under the table or something that is bad that goes and ruins your image, and then like you lose out on the prospective market that has been existing in the first place to begin with. The second thing that I want to note is these companies are also careful about their reputation in the first place, which means at all points in time they want to go ahead and help you because there are multiple competitors. Which means if they are not able to help you, you are going to shift away because the government is not only subsidizing one company, they're subsidizing the sector overall in general. With that, what are the problems that we are trying to solve? We think people, if they're introvert, there are certain questions they fear to ask. And these certain questions, even if they ask, they won't get good answers too. On our side, if you talk with a AI chatbot, probably it goes ahead and takes answers from a psychologist or someone who is like good in that sector, and then goes ahead and gives you answer. Probably it might be generic, they might say. But the thing is, when you go ahead and have conversations again and again, the AI is able to understand what actually you need. So it is also learning in nature. Meaning the conversations that you go ahead and have is going to make a life lot easier for you in the first place to begin with. Second thing I want you to note is it is very easier to understand. Meaning it's also the person who's conversing, it's easier for him to upscale or like understand how AI progresses in general. Meaning I don't think they will go ahead and share everything or like anything that's problematic for their life in the first place. And this is important thing. They might say you will overshare. But we want to say that we are going and targeting people who are introverts who are not able to like probably feel some kind of loneliness. Meaning, even if they overshare, I don't know how it will be like used in a bad way by the other companies. So even if you're oversharing, there is no harm to it. Meaning the social cost is absolutely zero, even if you do something bad in the first place. And the damage is already reversible. The last thing I want to highlight is probably this high amount of regulation that also exists. Meaning, if you subsidize these companies, you have a better bargaining able to go and like argue for better regulation facilities in the first place to begin with. Which means we're at a better negotiation table, and also you solve this problem. With that is proud.
I thank the Prime Minister for that speech. Leader of Opposition, here.
Hello. Hi, what do you do? Yes. We'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. This debate is not about extremely desperate people or extremely alone people. Don't have any side of the house who can just pay and use this ChatGPT, which is a very personal and personal to you. Second, this debate is also not about generate AI or generate help you need. Because ChatGPT is free to everyone. I can ask them that, oh, what do I have to do for this and this? This debate, as a different motion, is about comprehensive LLMs. What are these LLMs? These are the LLMs that pretend to be your friend, that pretend to be your girlfriend, that pretend to be your son or other things, which means that you find human interaction with them. You depend on them, you ask them your personal life, say your personal detail, just the way I would treat my other friend and other girlfriend in real life. Don't let them fool you that you would ask them about psychology. I can use strategy for that. First thing you want to do, buy it is that with time. And this debate is then about average or introvert people who struggle to be very socialized in life and then they want to use this strategy. First thing we have to do that by this of their house, these people become extremely dependent on this LLM. They are first even quoted. Know that these LLMs are designed for positive feedback, which means that obviously they have an incentive that the user continues to come back and come back. Which means that the way they treat you is that, oh, you are very lovely, oh, you are very handsome, they compliment how you are doing all the other things. But second, they are oftentimes they never criticize you, they never say negative stuff about you, because the way these LLMs are not functioning that way. But not as an individual, you like this. You like when someone says that, oh, you're very handsome, which means that you want to receive this more and more and more. Which means that next time you have an option to go to a random friend or just real life friend to this strategy, you're going to use it more. Do you want to feel the same joy of feeling this person is feeling? But second, the way it is designed is very dynamic in nature, which means if I'm telling this AI something, they will use it in future. They become more dynamic, which means that if they are talking to me as a friend, in future they will become my girlfriend. They will become my close friend. This proves two things. One, as the time goes and goes on, you want this positive compliment or positive person more and more. But second, you will spend more and more time with them. You spend 4 hours a day, 5 hours a day. I want to compare it. By this social life or human to human interaction is better even if you do it online or anywhere. First, know that the dynamic is much more realistic. which means that my friend criticizes me. And I think it is a very good thing. When my victim says that you did not prove anything, which means that it allows me to improve more. When my friend criticizes me, you have to show up, you have to do all of these things, it makes me a better person. It also improves my relationship with my father. When my girlfriend says that you have to be emotionally available, all of these things improves me as a person. Second, note that was a social dynamic between the social animal. AI cannot help me when I need money. AI cannot help me when I need human help. AI cannot play football with me. But when I have more friends out of some house, I can ask them much more help, which are required in real life more, because AI cannot do that. The last thing you want to know that physical love is better. I feel a lot more joy when I meet my girlfriend, when I hug my father, when I celebrate my birthday with him. On comparative, that does not happen. Sure, AI can tell me they love me all the other things, but in future it never develops. On comparative, this dynamic is better. The last one is to fulfill that this student cannot find friends. Yeah, I have proved that I can find friends even if I am extremely introvert. First rule, on our side house, if women do these social things, they will try to make friends, which means that even if I am the most introvert means, I will try to join society in my college, which is important to me. So sure, I cannot dance, but I can debate. So I will join debate society. But second, note that other things like dating app or finding friends exist, and they will development happen. You have very specific dating app. So for science guy, for nerdy guy, for sport guy, you have different profile. You can find friend which you can other things. This proof that on outside house, even the process of finding friend, even the process of making girlfriend is better because you interact with people, you improve more, you receive this negative feedback, in the future you become better. Why it is important? There are two kind of programs. First, I have explained that why you as a person improve better on outside house, do you spend time with more with real women. But second, your other relationship also become better. Know that relationship with my father and friend require time, require effort. If I don't show up to my friend one day or just other days, the quality of this friendship reduces. On this of the house, when I spend much time on this LLMs, I reduce the time I can spend with other women and other physical relationships. Which means the quality in other relationships is also reducing. Which means that in other relationships will start to become much worse and worse in future. I want to explain it here. On our side house, even if you have two average state, it is still better because it improves a lot more life. On comparing one LLMs, we have always ended level of employee and you can actually dependent on that. You cannot move out. This is like how consultants concept. If someone is telling you to consider level, it becomes very harder for them to opt out and demand. On our side house, even if you have a breakup, it is still better because you improve in future. You go to gym, you all the other things. What we prove in this debate is about what? That real life friends are better on just of not to just spend more and more time on analytics, which is worse. Always is off.
I thank the leader of opposition for that wonderful speech. 𝐵𝒂𝒕𝒊𝒂𝒔.
When you use a mic, mic.
Hello, I'm perfectly audible now. Perfect. Starting a speech in 3, 2, 1. For some people, criticism might be helpful. For some, it's heartbreaking. We protect these people for whom criticism is heartbreaking. Couple of questions. The first question is why affordability is a problem with the status quo. There are two reasons. One, the models we are talking about is LLM text-based model, and this is not part of this debate. The models which are a part of the debate are ANI and AGI models, which actually replicate human emotion, human expression, and human bond as further. And in these specific models, which are AGI and ANI models, there's still monopoly of certain brands such as OpenAI, and they're still very much premium rates. And if you want to access these specific models, you can use them for 3 minutes or 2 minutes when the status quo, but cannot avail like the whole access to those models without paying them extra fees, which you are able to subsidize for consumers and for firms as well. They're able to increase access. The second question is that why would people not replace the relationship which they have with this AI? Because that's the biggest thing, right? The first thing which I will know is that they don't interact with the material which we gave on our first speech. This model is about for the big sets of people who don't have these relationships in the first place, who are introvert, who don't have meaningful bonds because of the tiger parenting which they've gone through, because of the fact that they practice hustle culture a lot in their college, right? In their work life and all kinds of time. For these people, they are not confident to talk to other people. For these people, they are not feeling like they feel like they will be judged at the point of time they express how they feel, and their like social mobility will be dependent on what they feel. A particular person, a person who is working in a firm, is a lot of point of time is censored what they are talking because it might affect their promotion. It might affect the way their bosses treat them at all. It is specifically more critical for minority groups such as LGBTQ communities or such as women because they are not able to express their opinions to the fullest degree because oftentimes they have to like combat models such as patriarchy which restrict their autonomy to talk about the things which they really want. These are the sets of people for this AI is important, and I've already proven why this affordability is not something which they can aim right now. So this is the people we provide benefit. But second of all, the second response is that people are not available. Even if I have friends, even if I have family members, they might just not be available for me at all points of time. Why is this true? One, because everybody is rushing in order to earn more money. Everybody is in a hedonic treadmill where they want more and more utility for themselves because they are probably selfish, because there's a biological urge, because you want more dopamine, because you want more like better feelings and pleasure for yourself. But second of all, because people have an expectation when they express that emotion. If I tell you something, I would expect a particular reaction from you. And a lot of instances that reaction is something which you're not able to give me because you don't know what I want. So at this point of time, my expectations don't meet with the reality which you give me. At this point of time, I don't feel happy that I expressed that thing, but I feel sadder. I feel that I should have not told this something to other person because they are not able to meet the expectation which I had in my head at all of time. But thirdly, obviously, you're not going to trade off like just being on this AI 24/7 because one, you're biological. To have social bonds in your life, but second of all, you want to have a capitalistic model that you want to earn money for yourself, you want to have food on your table. So it's obviously just bizarre for them to think that you want to be on this AI 24/7 and you will be so dependent, you won't be doing anything. Because I want to be very clear. On our side, you have social bonds, but you also have this AI. If you don't have social bonds, you have AI to talk to them. In their side, you are only relying on the social bonds, which are one, first of all, not available, but second of all, are not accessible to you at all points of time. But third, the nature of interaction which you have with them at all points of time is not something which is meaningful to you. Other questions. The other question is that why are people lonely? The first reason which we give you is because of the rise of nuclear family. We believe because of people are migrating towards doing jobs in other cities, they oftentimes meet their family members, they oftentimes meet their parents. And at that point of time, they often also just get like settled in that other city because they get a partner and things like that. And in those specific instances, the nuclear family is born, and there's a disconnect between the people who are actually meaningful to you and who are actually understanding your emotions. But second of all, because of hustle culture, because oftentimes you are so filled with adrenaline that you need to do for yourself. You have an aspirational value. You might have a background which is not very positive. So you want to change, like you want to give pride to your family, prestige to your family. In these instances, you don't feel like you probably have time for making bonds. You don't have time for making a girlfriend. And these instances where you think that you cannot make this kind of relationship because your aspiration, because your goal is the biggest thing for you. And in these specific instances, you feel like that, like building a relationship will take a lot of time. You're not able to build. As a consequence of which, people might be working so hard in their daytime, but in their nights, they are sad, they are alone, they don't have anyone to talk to. We believe in those specific vulnerable instances, they are able to give people hope, they are able to give people a companion, and this is something which is important. Why is AI effective? One is just because they are self-collecting mechanism, as they say. As a consequence of which, the validation and the expectation which I have with this person is able to meet with the AI, because they are able to you see what the preferences which I have in my phone, what I search and things like that. In those specific instances, the expectations are not disconnecting with the reality, are just meeting with the reality. And this gives me utility. Sure, they call me handsome, they call me pretty, and that makes me feel better because that makes me feel confident. That makes me have a smile on my face on the other day when I wake up. And this is the most important thing for people.
And then the DPM for that wonderful speech. Yellow, here.
Audible? Perfect. Undergirl going as zero, perfect pronunciation. Starting from self-code. 3, 2,
If their idea is that people still look for some sort of catharsis and people are busy, I think if people are busy 24/7, they still won't have time to do any of this in the very first days. That means there is some amount of time that you have available that you can use, for example, to like deal with friends, to deal with other things in the first place, which then gets replaced with ChatGPT, like these sort of elements, which are quite very bad. The idea is that in general, you will get some sort of catharsis out of like going to them and like, getting some sort of ability. I think two things to know. One, this debate is not about extremely low people because they don't have any sort of people to compare to. Which means even if the chat will chat GPT and even if they feel the conversation is redundant to a certain extent, they still go ahead and do so because it's better than nothing. This debate is about the people who, for example, may have some other forms of alternatives but now fail to evolve into them in the first place. What does that mean? Two things. One thing to know here, I think at large within their paradigm, on average, people become more introverted. What does that mean? For example, if you saw in COVID that you already had a great source of dopamine where you could just scroll reels when you had the time available. Now people have a very slow amount of attention span. What will this do then? That means if, for example, you do not have any sort of idea on how inconvenience work or how this works, some people just become very dependent. Which means it's not just about, you know what, my friend is harsh, so I maybe need to look for better friends. It's that I already have a better friend available in this AI, so why do I need to look for this, look for other friends? And I can just isolate this friend and I can just let them be the first things. Which is bad for both of these friends because they both may not be able to find friends. But then second, I think friendships work on a spectrum, which means one friend introduces you to other people, two friends introduce you to more people in the very first stage. If, for example, even if you're dealing with this harsh friend, you're hoping that they introduce you to more people, that brings you some sort of social connection, that brings some sort of evolution into your thoughts. These people can give you catharsis, but now like you won't even do that in the very first place because this AI is extremely good and they're just getting great information, which is just which is then bad in the very first place. Now you don't move on to that evolution, and then that's perfectly bad. But then why are echo chambers bad, which in general like these AIs will be? One, these echo chambers are going to be addicted due to specific reasons. One, specifically these AIs will be built to essentially store data and essentially make you addicted to them in the very first place. Which means you want to spend instead of 1 hour, 1.5 hours, then 1.5 to 2 hours because you know what? It is giving these companies one more data which in general can be used for these very advertising that they're talking about, which will be perfectly bad because these companies in directly sell that data. But second, you can obviously get more ads on the side, which means Google already gives you regular ads. If, for example, you're using this AI, the more you use it, this company directly gets revenue, which means it's then perfectly bad on how, for example, you're going about it. Which means then, if you're long time dependent on it, you're obviously giving these companies a lot of money. But then, even if they are saying that government will subsidize us, so they maybe don't need to do ads, there will be price rise because the companies know that people are dependent on them in the very first phase. These companies don't have incentive to cooperate with the government. They already accept that there's a large amount of monopoly in this space. That's a trade-off than the day. But second, on why there's no growth in human beings, and that's particularly bad. I think whenever I interact with people who disagree with me, that brings some sort of evolution into my thought that makes me inquisitive and keeps me finding. Which means, if, for example, someone gives me equal meanings and saying, you know what, this feature is extremely bad, you need to go ahead and do something differently. That makes me think that, you know what, I'm doing something wrong and I need to change that and I need to do that in maybe 2 specific ways or 3 specific ways. That amount of inconvenience that comes in where I need to at least think about it, at least gives me a difference. Now this guy tells me, you know what, no, you're doing excellent because of the fact your friend is probably not the best person to tell you this because they have less debating experience than you or maybe one less debating credential than you. Which means then I completely ignore this advice and then I reduce the evolution that I have in the very first place. You reduce your inconvenience, which means you keep going with the same amount of groups of feedback, which is perfectly bad. But then, why does their argument on businesses not work? Their idea is government subsidizes these open AIs and it works in its favor. 4 reasons why this does not work. One, these AIs have already allowed economies to scale because that means that they are the only ones that they can go ahead and do this in the very first place. In general, you motivating them doesn't make a difference because they are the only ones doing it. They're getting a lot of revenue from it. They have extremely high margins. And other companies cannot come in because you need a lot of fixed operations, etc. in the very first place. Second, as long as that is true, then these are also sectors that are government heavy, which means if, for example, the government goes ahead and does this in extremely better spaces which look like manufacturing, etc., which can provide you a large amount of employment instead of doing it in open air, which is extremely service heavy, you're not getting a lot of benefits. But for these are already largely oligopolies, which means then a large amount of benefits that you get are largely uncertain because of the fact that how much are they going to reduce price, how much are they going to make it accessible. But once these become accessible is where exactly the problem comes in. Because then you start directly comparing them in the very first place. Which means the amount of time that I was maybe spending on AI instead of 1.5 hours increases to 2 hours. That means in general, average people obviously become more introverted, but more people who, for example, were only dependent on AI because they don't have it also increases. Which means one, you probably had a certain amount of people which were just not able to make friends and were now using ChatGPT. Now we that this device is much better than all other devices, which means I can isolate those friends and also become more dependent on this AI in the very first place. Which means one, if this AI doesn't evolve, they're obviously messed up because they're only stuck with this one sort of thought. But two, they don't have any evolution or any sort of incentive to go ahead and like make their thoughts better off. What does this achieve in this debate? one, their ideal economies doesn't work. There are way better things for government to go ahead and invest in. But second, at large, I think as long as people become more and more dependent on the idea of AI and how it works, it just is extremely bad because at large people feel that this is the only thing that they can depend on and it's much better off than other things. Which means even if people are lonely, I think more people become lonely in their paradigm. They can already start drinking because that's the only alternative. But as long as more people use AI, they don't have any other alternative, don't have any other incentive to go and interact with other friends. That's where it works. Proud to ours.
I thank the DLO for that wonderful speech. 𝒂𝒊𝒂𝒔.
Go Pratik!
Hello, am I clearly audible? Just a second. Starting my speech in the reverse count of 3, 2, and 1. The purpose of all AI research is directed towards replicating the human brain. The literal term artificial general intelligence AGI means that it will be able to replicate human brain to a large extent. So when you go to that companion bot and ask for advice, they tell you to talk to your mom, they tell you to text to your mom. This is the way through which we're able to reach human companionship in our side of the paradigm. Just imagine when you're feeling lonely and you ask your friend, what should I do? Your friend will say, go talk to your mom. When you ask the chatbot in our side of the paradigm, because you don't have a friend, what should I do? I am feeling lonely. The chatbot tells you, go talk to your mom. And this is how we reach human companionship on our side. The final is that they say introverted people will easily make friends, but I'm not sure if they can so easily make friends that why are they using this chatbot? Because they have consented to use that chatbot and they're using it by their own will. It's because that they face a lot of difficulty making friendship that they choose to go ahead and use this. Otherwise, they wouldn't have done so if they had the other easier alternatives available at the very first place. I want to first clarify on the characterization. They say that this is going to be normal introverted people who want to feel the thrill of having a girlfriend who are going to opt into this companion bonds. We say that these are probably lonely people or people who want to date or who need help or who do not want to interact with humans by their own way. Which is more likely? Is it just normal people who want it for fun or is it people who need it for help? Those two things. First, the introverted people who lead an everyday daily life and do not face problems such as depression, etc., have other mechanisms to go ahead and solve this problem. These are the mechanisms that they identify. First, they take care. Second, you join policy societies, so on and so forth. These mechanisms are available for everyone. The second thing is the cost benefit. Note that there is some opt-in cost, even though it's extremely minimal in our side. When you download or integrate this chatbot in your WhatsApp, you still need to go ahead and make some effort. If you think that you can probably go ahead and join a society and that's going to be more beneficial for you, you probably go ahead and still opt in to do so. And the second thing that they rightly identify, which helps our case, is that normal introverted people have higher capacity to interact with other humans. So the delta in this debate is not the normal introverted people, but it's rather those introverted people who don't have the capacity to form social bonds and human bonds. These are the people we're debating in this motion who don't have this capacity to interact with other humans, who don't want to interact with other humans. They don't debate on these people, they debate on all other people who can go ahead and interact with humans, which are not the delta in this debate. Where is the likelihood of forming friendship better? And this is why we want to win the question. Three things. First, I have already told you why AGI is going to give human solution. It's going to tell you to talk to your mom, talk to your dad, and form better relationship in workplace. The second thing is it's going to improve your self-confidence because note that AGI compliments you, tells you that you are doing great when you go ahead and input your day-to-day life, and this is just keep up your actually going towards the right direction. You feel a bit more confident than you were actually when you set up the chatting, and when you have this confidence, then on our side you develop this confidence to interact with other people. The third thing is the quality of advice. Their claim is that friends give you contradictory opinion which will help you get better knowledge. But do friends know more than the entire AGI model? No, they don't. So if you're facing a health issue, this model can give you advice. If you're facing an issue in your work, this model can give you advice based on all other past precedents and case studies. Any problem you face, you have a ready-made solution that you can implement the next day in your life when after you have chatted with the bot at the night. So the last thing, so the quality of question is definitely going to be better on our side in the long run for those people who in the short run is facing limited capacity to go ahead and interact with people. The last thing I want to talk about is addiction because this is the only case and they don't have anything other than this. Why will people not get stuck in a virtual loop and people will just feel better? Two things. First, loneliness happens in phases. So this actually looks like you need support in your worst phase, and once this worst phase is out, you have natural tendencies to interact with people. So this is a short-term problem of humans and not a recurring problem. If anyone has a recurring problem, they would probably go to therapy and so on and so forth. So in a short-term problem that we're able to solve and fill in through this chatbot, this looks like the phases. You have a bad week in your work, so you feel demotivated. You don't feel like engaging with other persons. You don't feel like engaging with your better half. You have a bad day in your college. Your exam went terribly. You failed in your exam. Then you feel this sort of depression. And this phases of loneliness exists for like 1 month, 6 months, or more for 1 year or 2 years for other people. During these phases, you have the limited amount of capacity to interact with other people. This is the main metric of this bot, and this is the problem that we are solving in our side of the pyramid. Which means that once you have gone through this phase, you have natural tendency to go back, and by all the other mechanisms that we have said, you will interact with other people. I think on our side, people solve all the problems they have, and people feel happy, which is why they're better.
I thank the governor for that wonderful speech that wraps up the constructive speeches from 𝐶𝐶. On to the last constructive speech of the debate of the hearing.
Hello.
Starting in 3, 2, and 1. We think alienation is a problem. The problem with side proposition is that they make it worse. They extend to people who probably would not have opted for this in the absence of subsidy. Who do they want to cater to? 1. Extremely introverted people. We already told you that in the extreme instances of people who have no other alternative, which means that if I'm an introvert and I don't go out with my friends, I don't party, etc., which means that I don't spend money anywhere else, I can probably buy this AI anyway. Second, they talk about minorities like women and queer people, etc. The flip is simple. We think that these are the people who need the community support the most, which means that at a point in time in which you subsidize these AI models for them, which means that probably women don't reach out to other women a lot more, or like don't form online communities as more, because now they're dependent on these AI. Which means that the flip is simple. The communities who need community support the most, they end up being dependent on these AI at any point in time. Why does socialization get better on our side? First, on like negative. We think that on their side, they greatly increase the access to it. Which means that even if presumably I'm somebody who has 1 or 2 friends, or even if I'm like very extroverted, I'm tempted to try out this app. 5 reasons. 1, because it is affordable, simply because like the government subsidizes this, which means that the entry barrier to access this app is extremely less. Second, I am curious because of the fact that this is a new emerging technology and now the government has subsidized this. I want to see how exactly it works. I want to see how this app functions. Third, the signaling effect by the government that they themselves say in the first speech. When the government says, look, we are subsidizing this application for you that talks to you like a real friend. I see this as a signaling effect that the government themselves approves of this. Fourth, we think that you get dependency. What is their response? They say that when you're at your lowest point of life and at a point in time in which you're able to pass that phase, then you no longer need it. Untrue, because of the fact that individuals are extremely likely to be dependent on the things that help them. This is precisely why individuals become addicted to substances. This is precisely why individuals become addicted to, let's say, one or other way of coping up with like coping mechanisms at any point in time. Because even if now they have crossed the issue, They think that without that in the absence of this AI, they're likely to get worse. But second, precisely because the AI helps them, assuming it did, they probably feel that the AI is the only thing that can help them, which means that this dependency never goes away. At a point in time in which individuals try to now operate without the help of this AI, every time that they're met with some setback in their life, they again go back to this AI because they think like regressive phases of whatever. Second reason, why do we get better socialization? Why? They themselves concede the biological or the social need to have human interaction does not go on any side. At a point in time in which you have to pay to get this friend, but also because you're simply not aware about this technology in the first place, because you don't have the government telling you that you have subsidized this, you're incentivized to talk to your friends. You're incentivized to force yourself to talk to these people for the same reason that introverts in the past have done so. But second, even if you're extremely asocial and you cannot just look at people and talk to them, you think that the digital age has allowed people to talk online or to have I don't know, communities on Discord, Reddit, etc. Which means that even the most introverted people who are let's say insecure about how they look or insecure about how they speak can probably just put an anime PFP or talk just like how they did in COVID. We don't think that individuals become extremely isolated at any point in time. The first thing that I want to talk about then is why do individuals get extremely harmed on our side? The conclusion of all the analysis that I've given to you so far is simple. We still cater to the extremely few number of people who have an extreme need metric for this. What happens on their side is that now they incentivize other individuals who would have otherwise made friends, who would have otherwise talked to people, and now they also confine them to this. Three harms on development. One, confirmation bias. The idea is simple. They say that people have expectations and then they get hurt when their friends do not confirm it. Untrue. We think they are the ones who develop expectations in the first place because my AI chat model constantly tells me that I'm the one in the right, and then my friend tells me that no, maybe you're in the wrong here. Then I'm more likely to isolate myself from that friend. I'm more likely to think that the AI is the right friend that I have, which means that people are not born with expectations. On their side, they develop expectations because of the way that this AI treats them. Which means that even if on our side, your friend criticizes you, or when your friend says something like maybe this is not the best for you, you're likely to believe that because A, you probably trust that friend, but second, because when you actually live up to that advice, when you actually follow what that said, it probably works out for you. But second, we think that setbacks is important for the analysis that obviously gives you. Third, the idea is simple. If they want to say that individuals get happy on our side, I want to flip this entirely. We think that as long as the biological or the social need to have some form of human connection, some form of physical intimacy, some form of playing football with my friends or hanging out with them outside, as long as that biological thing that has been wired 1,000 years or whatever does not go away, the idea is that individuals still feel that something is missing. Even if my AI chatbot tells me that I love you or whatever, I still feel, but you are not a real person. Which means that individuals on their side get extremely frustrated. They keep on saying that, oh, why are you not real? Oh, I wish I could meet you. But that is literally not physically possible. Which means that even if on their side they're able to get some sort of short-term happiness, in the long term it does not work out. Because in the long term, I want to have a wife, I want to have a kid of my own, I want to have a family of my own. Which means that in the long term, they're losing because it's not sustainable at all. Which means that there's some sort of cognitive dissonance that they end up developing. Which means that on our side, you get better communities for the simple reason that even if individuals are extremely alienated in general, given that they still want some form of connection and they have no other alternative because this app is expensive or whatever and they have no knowledge of it whatsoever, they're forced to go out, they're forced to help out others, they're forced to talk to others. For that reason, talk to others.
I thank the author for that speech. Reply, here.
Hi. 3, 2. Government says that introvert people cannot make friends. They never prove being introvert, and if I'm today lonely, that does not mean that I don't have capacity to find friends, to form relationships, to improve the relationship I have. I told you in my first speech that you can download a day. If you're 4 foot or 7 foot, you can make a dating app and set up friends for you. Even if you're a person who listens to random music from 1440, there are other people who do that shit also. Which means that if you have done things and if you try to make friends in your college, even if you cannot make friends, just ask your father, ask your mother, ask your sister, which means that they are capacity to form a relationship. They never prove why you cannot make friends. Then you have to judge this way that if you have capacity to make real life friends or these LMs, which are better. We give you 3 reasons for this. Before they say that you can make real life friends or no circumstances. First, they deny themselves. They say that you are extremely lonely or you have so much work to do and you only have limited time, which means either you use it for LMs or real life friends. Second thing, they say that it happens in phases, which means that if you use it now, you will not use it in future. But they never deal with it. As a human being, I go on the same drive which this ChatGPT is giving me now, which means that even if I'm depressed today and this person told me so many beautiful things, When I come out from tomorrow, I will never try to make their life friends. I will always compare with them to this elements. Next time I will find my wife. Next time I will find a real girlfriend. I will compare to these elements. I will treat it as nice, which means that your future capacity to make friends reduces. You will compare to elements who is designed to help you, who is designed to love you all the time. When I tell that, oh, I was cheating on my father, I fight with my girlfriend, I fight with my mother, these elements will say that, oh, you are right, you are always right. On comparative, even if my friend beat me because I did something good, it is still better because now I have to fight for it. What we prove in this, on ourselves to become a better person. If you need physical help, if you need spiritual love, need help on ourselves. These are the most important things which is required for any person to use social human being. You need money. You need friends to show up in a hospital when you need. The element cannot show up. These friends only exist in our Sunday house when you have spent time with them, when you have helped them to form their Sunday. You don't do that when you check them. What we prove that you also have better relationship on our Sunday house, which means that on where you don't compare other things. The last thing they say that oh you are extremely lonely. But tell you that even if you are extremely lonely, then use ChatGPT. It does not matter. So you don't have to compare LLMs. Use this ChatGPT. All those things. Sign off.
To wrap up this debate, Dr. Here.
Final speech in 3, 2, 1. I would love to live in a world which side opposition sides, because in the current world which we live, we have social norms. These social norms are not able to be complied by a lot of social groups, and these are the social groups which we protect. Because if you are an introvert, by the virtue of society prestiging confidence, and by the society, by the virtue of people finding people who are go to and talk to are nice people, you are just left behind in the race, and these people are never talked about, and these people are just left behind. We are the side which actually are these people. 3 questions. Why is subsidy required? Why are people, who are the people who access this, and why is our side able to make these sets of people? First thing is the point is that we say that the nature of this EI, AGI and ENI, where subsidy is required, because of which the responses from their side is to have this already cheap, does not work. Second, who are the people who access it? We tell you down the bench that the people who do not have meaningful friends and are only opting to this model. Because if you are charming, if you have aura, you anyway are likely to have people, or likely to have companions. At that point of time, you don't need it because you can utilize your charming. You can utilize the fact that you have a lot of people and you'll get those meaningful connections. Third question, which side is able to make these sets of people better? We prove, one, they are able to solve loneliness for these people. Because you feel that you have someone who understands you, who does not tell you that you are wrong, but rather gives you affirmative advice. At this point of time, you feel that this is a good thing. But second of all, because they're able to cope up grief, a lot of people just lose their companion out of nowhere, out of nothingness. At that instance, you require someone who replaces your companion and who makes you feel that life can move on, you can move on, and you can be a better person down the bench. This is important. What do they say? They say addiction is bad, but we obviously say that this is not true because people are not compassionate. The way people interact with this is oftentimes in phases. So at the point of time when you don't want to be silent for eternity, at the point of time you feel a little better, you don't want to depend on this. But second of all, on growth, we prove to you that even if people are taking the trade-off of not growing, at that point of time, when they are self-affirming themselves, they are telling themselves that they are confident, and after that feeling, they have to grow significantly better. They have to be much more productive at the point of time they feel very safe and comfortable in their identity. We believe people protecting people's identity, people protecting people's confidence is the most important thing which we need to work on. Proud to propose.
And thank all speakers for that wonderful debate. Yeah, I guess you all can leave the stage. We will let you know the results.
Sorry.
और इसको भी रोक दे फिर चरण सौरभ ये अभी भी लाइव है प्रोग्राम इज लाइव लेट इट बी Instead of pause button, oh, end stream is there.
But then wouldn't that end the stream?
Yeah, it will end.
As of now, no?
Okay, I'm doing.